Let's get started. Welcome everybody. This, as you know, is our third class on holistic approach to prosperity, and today we are going into the body, the physical prosperity. As Anita said,
Physical body?
the physical body, right, and prosperity, and you think, well, how does the physical, how can the body be part of the prosperity? Well, I promise you, when I get done, you're going to have many, many ideas on how that can actually be part of prosperity. So let us go ahead, and we are going to get prayed in by Reverend Anita.
My favorite part. All right, guys. Just take a few moments and a few deep breaths. And relax. Relax your physical form. Yes, we are in physical form at this point in our journey of life. And before we were in this physical form, we were spirit, and we will return to spirit. And that spirit never leaves us. And it is for us today to learn about merging our physical form with that divine spirit. That spirit that can help us in every aspect of our life, including all aspects of this human experience. We are so grateful for what we are going to learn today, and we're so grateful for this session and for each session of this holistic approach to prosperity, because we know that we are prosperous by nature, and that by learning more about all of the aspects of prosperity, we can bring more of that into each of our lives. And for this knowledge and this learning and this growing and this becoming, we are so very, very grateful. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. This is session 3, and it's the body, physical prosperity, health going into. This is a great little thing from Catherine Ponder and the Dynamics of Laws of Prosperity. And if you haven't read any of Catherine Ponder, I'd highly recommend it. Would someone read this? Anita, let's start out.
Truly, whether there is a condition of ill health, there is a situation where the ill person has been subjected to internal discord of mind, body, or affairs. Prosperous thinking, expressed as harmonious thinking, helps to produce harmony of body as well as one's relationships and environment.
So true. Somehow I don't, there we go. Oh, we're coming up there. This is some of theirs. She had this set up a little different. She's better at doing this than I am. What we're going to go over is we're going to define prosperity and identify types of holistic prosperity. We're going to assess those chakras. How many of you have studied chakras and know? Yeah. So we're not going to go into it in depth, but we're going to assess it. Review some pathophysiology of unhealthy lifestyle. Review grief, depression, sad. What is sad? What does that mean? Seasonal affective disorder. Now, you don't need to raise your hand and say, I got it. If you got it, you know you got it. But it's very real. And for some people, this time of year is just really, really tough. And we need to be there for these people. It all affects someone's prosperity. We're going to identify various ways to practice holistic body prosperity. Assess the holistic choices with some nutrition, exercise, and sleep information. Want to remember individual health choices affect all citizens, not just the individual, but the collective. And we're just going to stick with the United States because we could be here for days talking about the whole world. And differentiate empowered versus disempowered thinking, which we went over last week. And what is the difference between empowered and disempowered thinking?
Empowered people focus on empowering thoughts that help their lives, and disempowered people don't.
And we can tell the difference when we meet them, right? We're also going to learn about personal locus of control versus health locus of control, and I'm going to get into that. That's one of my
Personal versus what?
health.
Locus.
The health, yes, health locus of control, which some people don't know, but we're going to learn about that today. That's what we're all here for. And we're going to do some follow-up with self-evaluations for people. So prosperity, I just love some of these where they've taken all these different words and put them all together. Does that not just kind of bring it all? And some people think that you have to take time, read every single word, but your mind is moving faster than that. If you don't believe me, think about it when you're trying to go to sleep. Your mind is moving pretty fast, so that is very, very important to think about. It just, the mind. Definition, what is prosperity? Jackie, would you mind reading that? Can you see it from where you're sitting, or do I need to ask somebody? I'm sorry.
Prosperity is the state of flourishing, thriving, success, or good fortune. Prosperity often encompasses wealth, but also includes other factors that are independent of wealth to varying degrees, such as happiness and health. Each area affects the others individually and collectively. If one focuses only on money and allows their health to suffer, they could lose it all in a heartbeat.
You agree?
Yeah.
That is so, so true that we can do that. Yeah. Oh, I keep forgetting that this doesn't come. Everything is connected. Each is an indivisible part of the whole. And as you learned last week, that prosperity includes the mind, the body, the spirit, emotional and relational, and financial. Most people think prosperity is financial, but all of these other things can affect your finances. The wealth of a nation depends upon its health. Does everybody agree with that?
I do.
But do we think about that? I mean, when they
It's been
really...
kind of thrown in our face with the COVID.
And with COVID really brought it forward,
Yeah.
didn't it? It really did. But if you look at history, and not necessarily in the old history books, because they don't always have all the real facts in them, but if you look at history, and you see that when there was, like the Black Plague, when it went through, the Spanish flu, and you know, one of my pet peeves is they call it the Spanish flu. Where did that start in 1918?
USA.
In the United States of America. Why do they call it Spanish flu? Because
Because it was those guys down there.
they actually, no, it started in Missouri, in Kansas, no, in Kansas.
One of my home
Kansas
care ladies,
area.
her brother had it. And they had to
But I
move.
mean when they were saying, why did they call it Spanish flu? Because they were focusing on Mexico and
But it was actually Spain,
South America, were they not?
and it started down in Kansas on the pig farm. And then it spread because of the war. Soldiers, and I don't want to say ignorance, but I'm trying to think of a nicer word, of the military sent all of these soldiers. Lack of acceptance. They had the knowledge. They were given the information. Even President Wilson was given the information at that time, and asked, please don't send these soldiers out in the trains and from one fort to the next fort, and they did. And of course, they just spread it all over. They had, sending them from the trains, they had to stop and get rid of the bodies on the way. And they did the same thing when they went on the ships in the oceans. They had to, unfortunately, you know what they did with them when they were in the ocean, and people died. And that is just, it was not accepted of what it really, the reality of it, as, thank God, that nowadays they woke up a little bit more and looked at some of the history, not as much as they could have, but they did stop the spread of it. And some people think, well, we didn't need to do all of this stuff. But if you really look at it, it stopped the spread in comparison to what happened back then. The reason they call it the Spanish flu is because Spain was the first country that stood up and said, this is a pandemic. So I don't call it the Spanish flu because that's not fair
Not
to
very
So it
Spain.
didn't really
you know.
come from Spain.
No.
They just labeled it.
They just finally, somebody woke up and said this is the
And they,
Spanish flu,
they just
right?
named it that.
They just
but look,
named
if you
it
got
that.
chicken pox, you don't really
Because
get
that's
blamed
Spain.
somebody
chicken
else,
pox
not
from
us.
chickens.
There
They
you
are
go.
still doing archaeological digs in Kansas for bodies.
Are they?
Yes,
Wow.
I come from Kansas and I've seen some of the digs.
Wow, that's amazing. If you look at this, I know it's hard to see with the smaller TV, but if you look at the U.S. has the most expensive healthcare system in the world.
Amen.
That is pretty sad. I mean, look at the United Kingdom. They're half of what we are, and all these other countries that we consider third world countries, they're not doing half of that kind of health there. So
But yet we send money there to support them.
yeah, exactly. They ought to be sending money to, well, actually, to support us, right? We just need to wake up.
Thank you.
American exceptionalism is a myth. Highest healthcare cost, most people with no healthcare. Highest infant mortality rate, shortest average life expectancy, highest obesity rate, worst murder rate, highest antidepressant use, greatest number of children in poverty, greatest number of children in poverty in the United States.
Why do people keep wanting to move here?
Right.
For some places
They
it's
figure if
worse.
they get out of poverty, they'll
Yeah.
be rich.
Well, the myth
who's
is
the
that
least?
America is great. The highest, okay,
Let's go out. Let's all
Greatest-
go there, guys.
yeah, greatest income inequality, lowest social mobility, highest incarceration rate, worst murder rate, most gun suicides, we all know that. Highest carbon emissions, worst gender inequality, and we know that as women, right? Most arms sales, highest military spending, near lowest nutrition balance, highest COVID-19 mortality. Now that's a real recent one. United States, highest COVID-19 mortality. And the near lowest nutrition balance, highest, highest cell phone service cost, we're the 15th in citizenship rankings and the 15th in quality of life rankings.
Other than that, we're
That's-
fine.
I mean, that is really sad. And this,
I still can't see who's the lowest though.
that
India.
is India.
India.
Yeah, that's why they're getting.
They're over.
My nephew was living in China for a while, and he had to get some MRIs and stuff. I just got an MRI. It was like $4,000,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and then with insurance it was like $800.
Mm-hmm.
No insurance, you just do it $100.
Mm-hmm. And people will say, well, they pay more
'cause
in
you're paying
taxes,
for
but
it.
in total,
Right.
what we pay
All the
in
time
health
you say
care
that.
would be equal to what is paid in taxes. So, and this is just the health spending. There's just so much health spending, and I don't expect that you can see all of that, but that's okay. So where are we coming from? Well, obviously we have the challenges of the drugs that's costing, and people say, well, we got to stop them coming across the border and selling drugs. If everyone in America stopped buying drugs,
They wouldn't come.
that would solve the problem in my mind. So, and in some countries, they actually, in Great Britain, they actually, if someone is addicted to something, the doctor will write a script for them. They go to the pharmacy, they get that filled, and they quite often continue working in whatever their job is, using it, not panicking and not stealing and robbing and killing people for their drugs and all of that kind of stuff there. So cocaine obviously is in pharmaceutical prescription drugs. That is a real problem in the United States. It's just really sad. Can't see as well with those. Alcohol, third
Yeah, like,
loading
do you
cause.
remember the EpiPen situation
Yep.
with kids?
Yep,
And the CEO went in and raised the prices?
right. And the insulin.
Mhm.
That is just, it's unbelievable with all of that. And also what we're spending in prisons for these people. What can we do individually? And this is a collective consciousness that we need to have. We need to do whatever we can do to prevent healthcare fraud, because we got to stop it. And a lot of it is going on, and if individually we can do that. And protect your health care card, protect your Social Security number. because that can really add to it. If you're using emergency services when you really could go to the doctor and not use emergency services, you can save a lot and be more prosperous. And if individually we're saving, then the whole country could be more prosperous.
And urgent care is way less expensive than any ER in any hospital.
It is,
You
and
get the
use
same
it.
stuff.
Yep, use it. Don't go to the ER. ER, emergency room medicine, is for critical emergency situations. Not, I've had a headache all week, and now the doctor's not there, and it's Saturday, so I'm going to go to the emergency room when there's people there with blood and guts everywhere. Well, I've been there. I've seen some really bad stuff, folks. So
Well, you can go into an emergency room right now, and most of you aren't as old as I am, but if you've seen the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it reminded me of. Sitting there and watching the whole thing.
you ought to try working there like I did.
Well, I was recently there. I was just recently there, and when I first went in, there was like maybe 5 people in the waiting room. When I came out, there was 50 people.
Hours.
There's
hours.
hours away
There's a
after
shortage
hours.
of workers.
There's a lot of phantom billing going on, fake
Oh,
prescriptions.
yes, it is.
Which all adds to the high cost of medicine. It really does. Healthy employees is an important part of that prosperity for our country, but also for us, because we don't have to spend as much money on products and things that we want if the employees are healthy, and the companies don't have to spend all of that money. Unfortunately, there's a lot of racial discrimination which comes into the health care.
Yes, it does.
The blacks and the browns and are just not getting equal health care. Any toxic waste dumps, they feel it's okay to have that mining and all that kind of stuff, like on the Indian reservations and then the poor people. And you don't want me to get into that. But we have to equal opportunity. We have to
That
think
would
about.
make you sad, SAD. Just looking at the numbers.
Yeah, and looking at that, it's so important. Going back, the whole wellness, we're going to really look at all of the different aspects of that. Yes.
I'm just dying to share something. I'll keep it really short. The United Nations has started measuring the wealth of a country not based on their gross domestic product in terms of dollars, but in terms of their happiness quotient.
Right, I've seen that. And you know where we are?
There are 7 factors.
Bottom.
I know we're not in the
We're
top
not
10.
not in the top.
Other countries are.
Yeah, it's amazing when you look at who is up there. So that makes, again, all the aspects of what makes us individually. We looked at the whole picture of the country. Now let's look at individually there. That what good dental care can save us of prosperity. Taking care of our and just good, everybody brushing your teeth and learning what's healthy in toothpaste and what's not, what's healthy in toothbrush. There are toothbrushes that you can buy now that are biodegradable. You don't need to be buying plastic and throwing that into the environment. You know, changing your toothbrush often is very, very important. Wearing a mask if you have a cold or you think you are coming down with a cold or whatever, or if you're uncomfortable. Certain stores that I go into, and I'm not going to, badmouth any of those, but some I will wear a mask in, and others I don't feel like I need to. But I do keep my distance. When we are circling up here, I don't like to hold hands. And you might say, well, COVID is over.
No, it isn't.
And Linda, do you want to share? Is it okay to share who has COVID right now? Go ahead, tell us.
Connie has COVID.
Connie and Ross.
And Rhonda both.
And Rhonda.
Connie and Rhonda both have COVID. So we may think we're safe, but that's why I don't hold hands when we're in there. And I'm connecting, and we can connect with our hearts and our thoughts. And
Linda,
just
I
have
got
to take
COVID when I was
precautions.
in rehab in a nursing home.
Right? Well, there's
From
so much
staff.
of that. From staff, of course.
Well, I
Bringing
actually
in-
don't think it's so much about not holding hands as, like, when New York, there were so many people.
When was she?
And like the subways are very dirty. like in the beginning, they went and
Middle of the
cleaned
week,
everything.
And
So it's
the
about-
breathing, right. Well, you're breathing it in. It's the droplet method, breathing it in, but,
She,
you know,
she was kind of,
Right.
shake my hand,
you know,
no.
she said it's her allergies, but then
and the elbow, people will, and then do I want to elbow them? No, thanks. Because if you think about it, you know, just even the elbow
You
stuff.
threw the germs in.
People, yep. So taking precautions, getting some medical care. When you go to your doctor, write down what your concerns are. Keep track of that. Get yourself a 3-ring binder and get copies of your medical care, whatever, your history and physical, whatever lab work and things like that. Take personal responsibility. We're going to learn more about that as we go along. And support health care with children as well. Suicide prevention and suicides cause a lot of health care and a lot of prosperity challenges for the United States, but individually. How many of you have had somebody commit suicide within your family? And you know that's going to affect the whole family. That is really going to affect them. If you don't know something, look it up. Nowadays there's so many places to look it up, and some doctors don't respect that somebody comes in and says, I Googled da-da-da-da. But sometimes that information is better than what the doctor can say. Because if you think about it, there are, I don't know how many thousand diseases as well out there. No doctor can know all of that. It's just not possible for them to know everything about every disease and every medicine. If somebody has a disease, they need to know a lot more about it. I've had fibromyalgia since I was a child. When I was, 9 years old, my parents took me to the doctor. Oh, those are just growing pains that I was having. Well, they never stopped, and I think I stopped growing a few years ago. But I've learned.
What that actually is?
Fibromyalgia, certainly. Good question. Fibromyalgia has in the past been poo-pooed, and still some doctors will poo-poo it. But tell me.
It's real.
It's real, and there is a doctor, Dr. Starnell, who has written some really good stuff about it. And basically, what it is you have fascia, which is around in all your ligaments, your tendons, your muscles, and fluid flows through that as long as you are active and you stay active and you stretch and you do those things that will keep it flowing. Remember the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz? Mm-hmm. You know, what happened to him, right? Mm-hmm. Because he wasn't moving around. And even in a wheelchair, there are things you can do. You've learned a lot of exercises that you can do when you're sitting in the chair. Some days you're not doing well. People laugh because I walk almost every day, even in the winter. I'm out there walking a couple miles. But I've learned as much as I can about that. And if you can't picture that fascia, most of us are older and we clean chickens, and you pull that leg apart, the thigh, and you see all that webby stuff in there. That's fascia. And fluid flows through that. And if you don't keep moving, it gets gummed up, and it can actually get gummed up into knots. And if you go for massages, they'll be complaining about those knots that you have in your body there for sure. So again, remember that everything is connected.
So what actually is fibromyalgia?
It is having that gumming up there.
Okay,
Oh,
and
And
not
not
flowing.
flowing, and
Okay.
just some people seem to have it. I believe it's hereditary. What research, and I've done a lot of research on it, of course, I have to. And I believe it's hereditary, but yeah, it's just,
So it's a web-like fiber that
and they gum up, they don't flow as well in some people as in other people, for whatever reason, who knows. But it's very painful if you don't keep track of it. So again, remember that we have all of that all connected there. How many of you know your chakras? We're not going to get into each and every chakra individually and the challenges, but this is one thing within healthcare that you individually can work on. Go to yoga classes, do Reiki. We have a good Reiki program here. And massage, all of these different things can work on that. You might be having problems with your throat. Maybe there's a challenge with your communication and your speech there that is causing that. If you're having headaches, it might be your purpose, your spirituality is being challenged in life. There's just so many connections that you can't separate all of them. And to go to somebody that can do that. And this, I don't expect you to be able to see all of this, but I just want to remind you that within Unity we have the 12 powers, and they're broken down, and at the end of the session I'm going to give you copies of this so that you can take this home and look at that, and you'll see there, you can't see the blue really well, but blue, obviously, what's blue? What 12 powers blue?
Faith?
Faith, right.
When you get to the tablecloths, do I know that?
Whatever works. Thank Dee for that, right? Whatever works. But you know, going through each of there, yeah, you can see, look up there to 12 powers, and which parts of the body there. Thank you for pointing that out there. Yeah, that helps a lot. But you can go through and think about where you're having challenges within your body, and if you look at the left side will be underdeveloped, and then the right side will be overdeveloped. So if you have an overdeveloped faith, or you know somebody who has an overdeveloped faith, what would you call these people?
Zealots.
Zealots. Exactly. And who is a zealot in the Bible?
Oh. Can't remember.
Who? Who's a zealot in the Bible?
Was it Paul?
Paul was definitely a zealot.
He was a lot of
He
things
switched
too,
over,
but
yeah, he
John the
became a
Baptist?
zealot. And there's just we know that, and sometimes that's just like there's too much to be around them. I'm going to save you from whatever, you know, or Jesus is going to save you, but you don't have to do anything. Just, you know, pray up and, you know, it's like
Give me $10 and
I can give you some money. I'm trying to think what religion it is. It just says, pray, yes, but move your feet. Don't just pray, move your feet. And in Unity, that's take action, right? So you can go through all of these. Somebody that has an underdeveloped faith may not be able to believe and feel that. So, like I said, I have copies of those. I'm not giving them out because then you would be all looking at that and you'd miss all this other stuff. But at the end, I definitely have copies of that for you. Again, this is just the best picture of showing the human body and all of these challenges that go on pathophysiologically affect so much, and a lot of disease and dis-ease is affecting your body. If somebody is angry all the time, it might affect their heart. What do you say if somebody has just this, they can't forgive and they're angry? What happens to that person? Who gets the poison? The person they're angry at? The individual themselves is going to be within that.
Or a broken heart syndrome.
And a broken heart syndrome, yeah, people, they really believe people have died of a broken heart. They really believe that. Animals can, yeah, somebody dies and the pet can follow them, or a spouse may follow one another just because of the grief is so intense. I have a friend right now, he's just going through so much grief, and it was a year ago, January, when his wife got COVID and him, they both got COVID, and she died, and then he's, you know, why did I survive and why didn't she survive, and he's angry, and then this is the year anniversary was in January, her birthday was in January, she was on the vent for a while, so her actual date was February the 4th, so he's really challenged right now, and that's affecting him in a lot of different ways.
And with grief, I think grief can, you know, nobody has a time limit on grief either.
No,
you
grief,
can't say, okay,
grief, yep.
you can mourn from
right,
here.
Yep, we're going to talk about
here,
that
and that's
right
it.
next. Thank you for bringing that right in there.
She's psychic.
I'm psychic.
You used to
I
be
am a little.
psychic, yeah.
I
The
do know
grief,
that I am a little.
the grief, it used to be seen as stages, but now we know it's a process. You can be angry one day, the next day you can be depressed, the next day you can be looking fine and healthy and happy, and people will say, God, they just lost so-and-so a month ago. And then they go home and they're like, I know women who've actually gone into the closet just to, and sat in the bottom of the closet to smell the man's scent, and vice versa, you know, whatever. when my mother died, my brother, my father died first, 3 weeks apart, so I'm remembering back there. My father died, and my brother, my oldest brother, wanted to go in and clean out the closet. My mother had a meltdown. Literally a meltdown. No, no, no. And I just let him know that it was time for him to get out of there and leave her alone. And when she was ready, you know, she would clean out the closet herself. And that it just, we got to allow people wherever they are at, and that can change all the time. Yes.
Remember the Elvis movie when he goes into his mother's closet, and they were really
and that's not unusual. So those different, that process goes through the initial shock and disbelief, and we've all been there. We've all been like freaked out, and you want to deny it can't be possible, and the anger comes and goes, and just in the bargaining, what if I did this, or what if the doctors had done this, or what if whatever. I know a woman who was very upset because she blamed the doctors and the nurses because her husband died, and he was probably like 60. And it was all because they didn't get him up enough and walk him. He refused to get up and walk after surgery, at open heart surgery, right? And it's best sometimes you just don't say anything, you listen, but that was really hard for me because here's a man who did not exercise after he retired, who ate a lot of fat and meat and desserts and did not take care of himself. He was overweight and all that kind of stuff. So really, we have to do that individual thinking of our own prosperity there. Some people can't even function at work. They don't desire to socialize, as we know, and all of this affects them. They're not playful, they lose their humor, they're sleeping too much or not enough, and sleep, we're going to look at that a little bit in a minute. Depression and acceptance some days and other days are not. And I live in a small community. I grew up. There was one funeral home, and that's where my parents had their funeral, of course. So now if there's another funeral I have to go to, you walk into that, and that wave just, it just hits you, and you think, well, this is not their funeral, but yet it comes back, and it's just the way that life is. It'll come and flow, or something, some smell will remind you of that person that you loved, and we've all lost, there's no doubt about that.
But that's also a time when you doubt faith.
You can...
Because you look up and you say, why? You said you this and that and the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, okay, I'm not going to go to church anymore. I don't believe in you.
Yeah.
Or you can go the opposite and just say, wow, what an experience and a life that that person has. And
depending on the situation.
Yep.
Visiting you
yep.
or being around
right?
you.
And some people feel that, well, God caused that death. And as a nurse, that's one of my buttons, so don't say that to me, please. Whoa! I've worked in ICU with children, and a child dies, and I'm not about to tell some parent that it was God's plan that they would learn their lesson.
Oh, God.
And that's why, and I've heard people say that, but I don't even want to go there. And I also want to remind you is that the grief process can be a challenge, not just from a death, but from a divorce, from a separation, the loss of a pet. Those of you who have pets, you know what I'm talking about, right? That loss can just be so intense, and it can bring other griefs. Somebody that has an amputation, loss of a limb. I had my leg crushed in '93. I had to learn how to walk all over again. I was not getting the right doctor and the right medical treatment. 3 years I'm in pain. I'm just really, really challenged, and I'm grieving. I'm reading Job and the Bible 3 times because I'm asking why, and my faith, but I kept my faith. I knew that there, as a nurse, there's always some healing there that will happen, so I firmly believe that. But I learned everything I could, and I did. I took action, and I did everything I could. Within a couple of years after I had major surgery on my leg, because my kneecap was floating, and that's very painful, trust me. I can witness and testify to that one. And 2 years after my surgery, I'm at the Kellogg Center at Michigan State at a conference as a nurse with the doctors. And I'm at the table with my doctor, my surgeon. And I'm like, Julie, guess what I'm doing? She rolls her eyes. Don't tell me you're skiing, Linda. Please don't tell me you're skiing. I said, yes, I am. And she's like, why? So, I did rehabbed and had the strength to ski. And I'm like, if I don't keep these quads strong, I'm not going to stay healthy and I could have more problems. So she's like, yeah, you're right. But she's thinking like, oh, don't mess up my masterpiece. Yeah, surgery right there. So, and I remember that different cultures have different ways of grieving, and families and communities, and the connection to the loss can be different there. So, and the stress, all of that can cause stress. Anything can cause stress. And a lot of the stress is not exactly what's happening, but what?
Change. For me.
Our response, our experience, our perception of what is going on there. Linda, would you mind reading Physical Prosperity there for me, please?
Physical prosperity means taking care of your body and experiencing vibrant health and vitality. Eat nutrition foods. Exercise doing something you enjoy. Get enough sleep. Take time to pray and meditate. Practice mindfulness. Participate in social activities, family and friends. Volunteer. Find and maintain some social support. Work together with your healthcare team.
All of that is so important. And we do these PowerPoints and lessons. And I read, when I was going through my LUT program, I read that the average minister spends 5 to 8 hours on preparing a message. Do you agree with that? Sometimes more. And we do these for an hour or more, so we spend a lot of time. And I'm thinking, maybe I should have put up there, eat nutritious foods. But you see it later, so it's just, I'm going to let it go. As a lot of young children now, they watch the movie Freeze. And,
Frozen.
And Frozen,
Yeah.
you're right. And the parents will be getting on, and the child will start singing, let it go.
Yeah.
And the parents are rolling their eyes, or grandma, right, whichever there. So
Linda, can you backtrack just 1 second to
Certainly.
that last one? Thank you. Appreciate it.
sometimes
And
we'll be sending these out, right?
Where did you get all
Probably
this
Connie.
text in here? Is it written down somewhere that one could?
Yeah, they'll be sending the copy out. He's
I
copying
do this
it.
every day.
No, I think Connie does. maybe.
Connie will be sending it out, yeah, within the next couple of days. So
The
if
video.
you aren't on the
Video.
website,
Video.
On the
on the website.
The video will be on the,
Okay, and if you can give your email, and we can make sure that Connie gets that, and then she will send you in the email, because the last one came out, right?
Thank you, yeah.
It's just on the presentation is on the YouTube channel and on Unity East's website.
You too as well, thanks, yep, so. But she did
Thank
send it
you.
out, it was in the email with the website, so I got it anyway, the email. But anyway, that's how you can get all of that. I know there's a lot of information. So looking at nutrition, we know the importance of eating our fruit and eating our vegetables. But think about eating more at home instead of in restaurants, because in restaurants you get chemicals and you know a lot of high-fat foods, and it's not as healthy.
Huge portions.
Huge portions, and of
Many
course we got to
times.
eat them, right? And family
Starving kids and everything.
preparation of meals, eating together as family, is actually healthy. I learned something about, especially Arab countries. This is going to make you, well, we're all grandmas at that age, but anyway, the grandma in the family will cook a meal that during the week. She cooks the entire supper. All of the family members will come over to her house and eat. She gets the companionship, she gets the company. She is being needed, and the mothers and fathers don't have to spend the whole day preparing supper. Now, does that not sound like a really great idea? I just think that is just the coolest
Well,
thing.
at my house, because I have my grandkids, you know, living with me half the time, we sit down at dinner every night with actual plates, and they have to help.
Yep, and
And
that's
we go through some days where Jace tells us the joke, or we talk about highs and lows.
right. Yeah, talking about things and the social environment there that is so, so important. Be careful of taking the fruit and putting it into liquid form, because that's just putting sugar into your body, and blood sugar goes up like this and then crashes down there. So it's better to eat the whole fruit there. Again, I just thought that was such a cool thing with the heart there and the healthy food. This is the latest pyramid. They keep changing the food pyramid, as we know, because we're all that age that we saw it differently. But the fruit and vegetables are what should be a major part of our eating, and legumes, and I like avocados with poached egg in it. That to me is just a good meal there, and the nuts and all of that kind of stuff. Meat, fish, junk food, the processed food, the sugar, that ought to be very minimal. And I don't believe that somebody should stop eating desserts. Just keep it down to a minimum and have it after your meal, not by itself, because if you have it by itself, it's like putting sugar and then it's gone. You know, if you're building a fire and you put kindling on the fire, it's not going to last very long, is it? And if you think about what you're going to eat, you want something to stick with you and to last for a long, long time. I am a firm believer that schools ought to have free meals for students, because it's very difficult for students that can't afford or don't get food, and then they feel bad. Everybody knows that they're poor, you know, every time they go down to the lunch.
I'm not able to read all the prints, so the third one from the bottom says seeds, nuts, and avocados. Okay, and then the next one says eggs, fish.
Is that above it? I can't.
Something in dairy.
Yep,
Okay.
Could you just read what the, you know?
Yeah, you got the, well, you can see the food up there. It's eggs, meat.
I can't get.
We can't see.
We can't.
Yeah,
see it.
and I, you know, and when you make copies of these, you really can't read everything in that, and I try to do that, and I apologize, but that's why I point out what each of that is.
Top
so
one's
that
processed food.
you can see
The top one is
that.
processed
And I cook
food.
in an
Yeah.
iron skillet because it gives off
The
iron.
iron, right, and looking at, read up on nutrition, and this is one of the many, many books that are out there that are available.
When you showed that picture of the in the family group,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing I thought of, no, this is not bad. You look at me like, what's she gonna say? When you go to a grocery store, you should always wear gloves. Why? Because you're handling fruit, vegetables, cans that everybody else has handled, and you do not know what country the produce came from.
You can find out by looking at the.
Yeah, but you should have gloves to pick it up and look at it.
Yep. Wearing gloves is an option. When I get back to my vehicle, I have some hand sanitizer, and I have it in my purse.
Because
So
the carts are
it's a good
dirty.
point.
Yeah.
The carts, I
Yeah.
clean out the carts. All that is really important. Hydration is, yes.
What's a good thing or combination to clean fruit?
Vinegar and water.
Vinegar, water, if it's got skin in it, I just wash it with like the dish soap and using. But remember, when we're washing our hands, we learn in nursing school it's the friction, right, that cleans the hands, not the time. Everybody will do happy birthday, 2 times, but it's the friction. And if you think about it, if your hands are really dirty and you just rinse them in the water for half an hour, you're not going to get all the dirt off. You gotta get some friction in there, and that's the same thing with germs. Is washing that. So I just wash it and I brush it. So, and I just feel like it's better. And if you don't wash your fruit, like an avocado, if you don't wash the avocado and you cut it, what are you doing from the outside? Putting it in. Exactly. So
I heard that an apple has 25 different
bacteria,
chemicals on
chemicals,
it.
chemicals,
On the
right.
peel. And
What
so
about
many people just
hydrogen
eat it.
peroxide?
No.
I don't know. I would have to look that one up. And hydrogen peroxide. Do you know anything? Have you heard anything about that? Washing it with soap and water, you know.
Or vinegar is good too.
White vinegar, baking soda, definitely is good. Important to stay hydrated all year, particularly in the summer, drinking enough water. And you might laugh at this big plastic, but when I was in Egypt and when I was in Israel, this is what you buy when you buy the water, so that you know, the big liter there, which is important. You can get a lot of water from watermelon, cucumbers, and other fruit there. I'm not big on plastic containers because if that plastic has been out in the heat and transportation, or people will keep plastic in their vehicles, plastic water bottles in their vehicles, chemicals can leach out into the water. So I don't use, you see that. You don't see me with much plastic, and plus the environment, I don't want all that plastic out, and it's doing my part.
Yeah, I've heard that guys are supposed to drink like 12.8 cups a day of water. I usually do about 2 liters, and I was thinking, oh, that's probably more than 12 cups. Actually, 12.8 cups is closer to 3 liters.
Depends upon your size and what you're doing. If you're, yes.
I have a quick story kind of about that. As a new nurse, I was on the observation unit, and we had 4 men come in with kidney stones in one night.
Flush that plumbing.
And so, as a new nurse, I went up to the urologist that, at that time, the doctors really came. I said, why do all of these guys have kidney stones? Do you think it's because we have a full moon? And he's looking at me. No, it's because they didn't drink enough water 2 or 3 months ago. Exactly. And so those things that weren't flushed through crystallized in the kidney, and then they started to move. So that's the important part of that.
Vegetables in those glass
It was the
jars.
I like my
And
idea
they
better.
last way longer in the refrigerator than the
Right,
plastic.
especially strawberries.
And you can just
they do.
put them in there and screw the top on, and you can even buy them in the dollar store.
Yeah, better glass and
Yeah.
better use the glass ones, not the plastic, for sure. They are so. And not having enough water can really affect. We're trying to keep moving here so that we get done. So try to keep the conversation to a minimum there. It affects a lot of parts of your body. I filter my water. Not everybody does, but I just feel that you don't know. And people think, well, I'm drinking, that's filtered. Your water in the bottle is not necessarily filtered. And I don't mean to, destroy your bubble there, but it's true. Thinking about unhealthy drinks, I couldn't find anything that said minimize alcohol. I don't think that you have to stop drinking alcohol totally, but minimize it. Don't have a lot of alcohol because it's going to affect your body. Dee, can you read this?
Yes.
Would you read it out loud?
I don't have a drinking problem. I drink, I get drunk, I pass out. No problem.
I had to put that. I just love that. And we've been around people, especially in our younger years, but still now we have people that we know that are like that. We know not to drink, not to promote alcohol in pregnant women for sure, because that causes the fetal alcohol syndrome, and that, talk about affecting prosperity and health, that for the child and the parents to have a child with fetal alcohol syndrome, and for society and all the insurances, and we'll go on and on forever. And those energy drinks, people, young people are dying because of their heart rate is going so fast. And they're using so much of that, and I don't know how they can afford to have 3 or 4. Really? I know somebody has like 8 a day of those energy drinks. I'm like, get a life. That is not healthy. Yes.
I was going to say, just funny thing. Whenever I hear that drinking problem, I think of Airplane. The movie Airplane.
Yeah.
I have a drinking problem.
No problem, right? Smoking individually is going to affect someone's prosperity. And I've done smoking cessation classes, and I will have the participants figure out how much is that pack of cigarettes, how many packs of cigarettes a day, and then add that 365, and tell me how much money you're spending a year. And they say, well, how can you afford to go on vacation? soak.
Right.
$3,000 or $4,000 a year on cigarettes or alcohol, or just, it's amazing. And vaping, they used to think vaping was better, and now we know that vaping is not the better choice. I love that picture. Sometimes it's hard to find the right pictures, and it does take me a while, but and the whole lungs, the tobacco-free zone, I think that basically explains it. We all know, I'm not going to go through all the effects of what that can happen. We have this sign in the park near me, and I just think this sign is so cute. Can you read the sign?
Young lungs of play. This is
I just love that, and it's just by the kids' playground area before you go in on the trail. It's right there. And what is this?
snuff.
And it's called what else? Chewing tobacco, and
Chewing
that
tobacco,
can cause cancer, throat, and the mouth, and lips, and pretty gross when that happens. Oops.
Get back
How did I get backwards instead of forwards here? Why am I going that way? Oh, because I'm in the wrong spot. That's why.
You've been drinking too much.
Yeah, too much water, huh? Really? So let's get into exercise. That's an important part of our prosperity, is to stay active and to exercise. And you can even do some little hand pump in there. You can get one of those balls. Remember when I would have classes and I'd have those balls? And we had, when no one could talk unless they had the ball, and when they had the ball,
Stress ball.
and the little crush ball, then they had the floor, and everybody else was there listening, and I would find that they would keep that crush ball, and they would be going like this, and somebody would say, "Hey, I want to talk." But they were doing that, and that's a good exercise for anybody to do. And exercise does not have to be intense, but as we know, there's getting a fitness program really helps. Some people have an exercise room. My vision, exercise room. That's one of my visions. Women's fitness is important.
I have
family
back
sports.
problems, so I had to learn, because I still do home care and I do cleaning and with my grandkids in the house and everything, to do squatting, because I can't bend over, because it's not good for my back.
Or for anybody's back.
I probably do 200 squats a day. You know what I mean?
When you're lifting, good point. When you're lifting, you want to lift like this, using your legs and your arms, and not lift like that. And some people learn the hard way. Sleep. How many have insomnia at times? I think everybody does at times, for sure, for sure. Different sleeping disorders. Sometimes it's somebody's having bad dreams, they're being haunted, they're taking medicine, sleeping pills. They might work for a while. Some people will take like Tylenol PM or sleeping pills all the time, but then you get hooked on them. And then how do you feel the next morning after that?
Groggy.
Ooh, can't wake up, and yeah, that is so, so true. Different factors there. They don't agree with while looking at your screen an hour before you go to sleep, looking at your computer and your phone and all that stuff, because that can keep you awake. It amazes to me how many people will have nightmares. And when I learned that they ate just before they went to bed and had a large amount of food before they went to bed, or they couldn't sleep, because you can't eat a lot and then go to bed. You probably have tried it, and you probably know it doesn't work, but you still
Pizza's the worst.
Pizza's one of the worst. Anything with tomatoes.
That's the only time I dream,
stuff.
and remember my dreams if I've eaten it just into bed. And I don't eat it that often, but not at nighttime is not good.
Now you're going to tell everybody how to have dreams.
I usually have good dreams.
Not the good kind of dreams. They're not good kind of dreams, people. You don't want to eat pizza late. Just saying.
And
they're weird dreams.
If you are older, as most of us are, and you're buying a new mattress, get yourself an electric bed so that you can elevate the head of the bed. If you've got indigestion and problems sleeping, it makes all the difference.
They're wonderful.
They really are wonderful. I can't say too much about it, and they're if you look, you can get them used for next to nothing. They are so
If you keep your bedroom cool, or
keeping your bedroom cool is another one. Yep, it's another really important one. Learn about sleep disorders. Read about it. If you're having a problem sleeping, then learn about that and all that you can.
On the computer.
It can
Google.
Google it, exactly. That's how you can learn. it affects so much of your body. Okay, we want to keep going there, so be optimistic with your lifestyle. That is so important. We know thoughts and feelings can bring about, and we have to think positive there. A green lifestyle, like you talked about, doing what we can. Again, that's going to be bringing back prosperity to us there. Tina, will you read this one here?
Stress. Someone trying to repair every situation solo.
And how many of us try to do that instead of reaching out and getting help? I just love that. So basically, summarizing, think positively, exercise daily, eat healthy, work hard, stay strong, worry less. Has worry ever brought about anything, Anita?
Yes.
It's like a rocking chair, it gets you
Has
nowhere.
a worry brought
That's a good one.
nowhere? I like that one, the rocking chair. Perfect, perfect. Dance more.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to be at a party to dance. You can dance in your living room or basement. You know, set up a little dance area.
You can even do it naked.
Yeah.
I don't just don't do it outside naked.
Wait, in the house. Down in the
At least in the
basement.
winter.
Love,
Me and my
love
granddaughter do it
often
all the time. We
Yeah,
dance,
dance
we turn
around.
on
It's a
music
good
and
way.
cook and
to relieve stress and just to keep moving and get high energy going there and dancing around there. So, love often. Sex. I know I said that word. Don't get all upset now. But basically, that is a healthy way to de-stress
stress.
and relieve stress and just feel the love and all of that kind of stuff. So, be happy. Prayer, meditation, and mindfulness. They're also very, very important for us in our body there. So basically, how many of you have heard this before? Heal thyself.
Yes.
Heal thyself. Anita, will you read the first 3 lines?
Think about the many ways you can promote or bring about your own body prosperity. Time to break up in teams, find a partner, or be by yourself if you choose.
All right, I'm going to hand out one of these. Oh, I'm sorry. Good catch.
Half on, half off.
I want you to, once we get them all around to everybody, pass everybody, get one, and look at the front of it with all of this list. So many ways to promote body prosperity. I'm waiting until they get passed all the way through there. Hopefully I divided them enough so that they're going through.
Yeah, we're just trying to OPC it as a walking track.
All right, everybody got one? Almost. All right, what I want you to do is, like it says up there, I want you to identify which of these on this list, many ways to promote body prosperity, that you use or can use in your life and encourage others to use. If you want a colored pencil, Linda, will you pass the colored pencils around? They're right there. Take a couple. If you want a colored pencil, you want to just do it with a regular pencil or pen, circle it, whatever. We're just passing around. If somebody wants to mark those, you don't have to. But I want you to take a couple minutes. If you divide up in teams of 2 or 3, or if you want to do it individually, however you want to do it.
The ones that don't do them.
Well,
Are these the
that's
ones
up to
we-
you.
Are these the ones we do?
These are the ones that it says, like right up here, it says you can use in your life, or use in your life, or you can encourage others to do. Thinking positive,
Oh, we're supposed to do this first
I
or
don't
this
think you'd
first?
be able to see.
the list,
Yeah.
just first.
And circle what we do.
Yeah, just check off what you do or what you can do on that, and then when you're done checking off that, flip it over to the other side, sign it, and think about what choices that you can make there to improve your body prosperity, your health, and healing, and wholeness. All right? Do you need
If we haven't done it in a year, we probably shouldn't circle it, right? Thank you.
Well, it says you can use it.
Yeah,
Doesn't just say
all
you
right.
have to, but maybe that'll motivate you to get going
Yeah,
on
I'll put
it
a little
again.
asterisk by it.
We're supposed to mark what we have done.
Now, what you can use, like it says, what you can use in your life or what you are using in your life. Where's the other?
Pardon me, where's the one that says, I'm gonna go with what I have used?
In between, Linda.
Oh, I love that.
Here you go. Did everybody sign?
Okay.
If they were here? Everybody got signed?
I love, I used to do cool embroidery.
Doubting Thomas.
I write poetry or stories in my journal every day.
Somebody didn't sign it.
I try to get my grandkids to do it.
Yes. I think so.
I haven't done that in like forever.
Did you sign?
Now, we do these things.
Yeah.
Then mark it.
Oh.
Yeah,
We
you
don't have
signed
the
it.
sport I
You
used to
signed
do.
it.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
yeah.
They have the sport I used to do.
What's that?
Skydiving.
Yeah, oh. Maybe gets us a lot of
I don't know if that's healthy or not.
Oh, yeah, it is. Get out of there
You
and
have one of these.
falling through the air.
To each his own.
We're just gonna take like 5 minutes.
Are we supposed to be talking to people about this one?
Oh, wait, I thought we were doing just this, like.
Yeah.
Just a couple minutes, 'cause
Yeah.
we're
And then
gonna
I finish that. and then
finish
we're
up
on
in
to
a
that.
few minutes here. This is a little bit fast, but that's okay.
I'm not gonna.
Or is it? No, it isn't. It's longer. So you can take this home, and it would be, it's basically, if you think about it, it's a summary of all those things that you can do to be healthy, to be prosperous. And if, when you're looking at it, if you see I missed anything, let me know. What's that?
Get up on
Oh,
there.
I gotta get back up here. You're down there, I'm like, sorry. Hi. Yes.
Did you put the first thing, or can you do that? The first one that you put up there, what was it called?
Because I think you're supposed to take them home and go, oh yeah.
They'll come to you, just give them a minute.
Well, it come to me too. Something about prosperity.
It's very pretty, I like it.
I'm just fascinated by the sweat.
No, it wasn't healed by stuff. Maybe it was the one after that.
You
It was a
myself.
whole page.
Do you know that
That was
I
the
got
very
off,
first-
I was taking blood pressure pills in the morning and in the evening. Because my blood pressure was so high. And through meditation and listening to music and breathing along with music, I got off both my blood pressure pills.
A lot of people are taking too much blood pressure medicine. And if you aren't checking your blood pressure and you're taking medicine, think about it. If your blood pressure is low and then you take your blood pressure medicine, what are
That's
you
what happened to
doing?
me.
You're going to get worse there. So you can take those home. Let us get summarizing up here and get along there. So our core beliefs, as we know, we learned last week.
Maybe it was number 2.
I'll have to go back to that at the end.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
not sure
because the
which one it
very
is,
first
so.
sentence,
Was something that impacted you? We'll go back to it, okay?
it did, because it was something about prosperity, 2 other things.
Body, physical, and prosperity.
Pardon?
Body, physical, and prosperity. That was one of them.
This is, the challenge in doing all of this is to actually remember everything, and that's why we're taping it, so to look at it again. So our core beliefs, you want to read our core beliefs briefly?
Our beliefs about divinity, spirit, whatever name you give to it.
Yep.
Our beliefs about ourselves, our beliefs about others, our beliefs about the world around us, our beliefs about health, healing, and wholeness.
Everybody has different core beliefs, and
I
that's
put that in my
all
journal
okay.
after I finished it.
Looking at understanding the mind. Again, you have what is conscious in your mind, what you're actually aware of, and you've got your past history and what you've learned subconsciously, and that may not be the best. You might need to redo and relearn. Also, superconscious. What is the superconscious?
Divinity.
The divinity, the
Wholeness.
divine, that spirit, whatever you want to call. Charles Fillmore calls it the ethers.
Yes.
And I like that because it's everywhere. It's just, you breathe it in, it's around you, you're wherever there. So,
But there's
But
also
you-
an unconscious.
we are conscious and unconscious, like that's what we just said, that
Yeah.
the unconscious is what you've learned in the past and you're not really totally thinking about this.
I can't see.
You can't see that well enough.
No.
Who can see it well enough there to, the lights?
Linda Four.
Yeah,
There.
for
Linda.
I can read it if you want.
everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics. Albert Einstein.
That last sentence, this is not philosophy, this is not religion, this is physics. This is just the way the world is, and it's not going to change there. And the power of thought is so important.
A man is but the
And
product of his
Yeah.
thought.
Charles and Murdoch.
What he
Yes?
thinks, he becomes. That's Gandhi.
Keep going.
Oh, what you
Okay.
think you become, what you feel, you attract. What you imagine, you create. And that's brilliant.
And Reverend Ben is always reminding us about our thoughts. Thoughts
Become things.
become things, thoughts, feelings. That we have this little connection from our brain to our heart. We also have a connection from our heart to our brain. And the feelings can bring about our thoughts there. So by choosing your thoughts and by selecting which emotional currents you will release and which you will reinforce, you determine the quality of your light and your life. You determine the effects that you will have upon others and the nature of the experiences of your life. We do have a couple books of Gary Zukav, I believe, that are in the...
I'm reading them right now from the
Are
library.
you? Yep, they're in our library there. So, empowerment, we talked about this last week. Self-empowerment is our goal. And looking at the internal locus of control versus the external locus of control. I'm going to bring these all up so that we can go really fast here.
What is locus?
The locus of control is a control that we perceive we have in our life. And that's some people, it's probably one of those nursing and health education and psychology. It's a focus, of our life. Good, that's a good way to put it. We can think of being self-empowered. There's another way to call the locus of control. And make a conscious decision to take control of our life. A lot of people in Unity have this internal locus of control. I can, I prefer, I will, I choose. They're accountable, responsible, and take ownership within that. And as we know, we need to take personal responsibility for our health and the health of our community, the health of our church, right? The health of our nation, personal. There are people who have an external locus of control. And you've heard these people, I talked about that at the message today, that some people just say, I can, I must, I should, I have to, I'm just, it's just too much, I can't do this, I can't do that, and, woe is me. That we've all had those people that we know, all kinds of excuses and denials and blames, and, they feel entitled.
One of the motivational speakers, in fact, he did a session here not too long ago. His name is escaping me right at the moment.
Wicket?
Wicket. He would say the language I should, he would say, don't should on yourself.
Right.
Yeah,
Which
I like
was,
to,
it was like almost eliminated that word from my vocabulary.
Exactly.
and that is good. And I love when I'm doing presentations, and sometimes I will say, don't shut me in, I'm more shutting you, and I say it really fast. And all of a sudden people become awake that they were talking or, thinking about it, they're like, what did she just say? What did she just say? Don't shut me in. And then I slow it down and I say, don't shoot at me, and won't shoot at you. And, but they hear something different, but we won't go there, right? All blame is a waste of time, no matter how much fault you find with another, and regardless of how much you blame them.
I told a friend one time, have a good day in spite of yourself.
And she's still your friend?
Yes.
She learned maybe, huh?
She is
Now-
still my friend.
That's good.
Let us briefly, we only have a couple more slides to go, let us briefly look at our health locus of control. That can be different than our internal locus of control. You might find a businessman, a CEO, somebody who's in a leadership position. They have an internal locus of control. But women who've been married to some man expects the wife to take care of all of his health issues and doctor appointments and all of that. Yeah, it's a big difference there that he may have, even though he's the CEO of another place there. So somebody who has an internal health locus of control feels that they are responsible and that they can make changes, they're accountable, they take ownership for their health. They work with the doctor and the healthcare staff as a team, and they prefer to be in control of their own decisions. They learn what can make them healthy. What did I just say?
They learn what can make them healthy.
Learn what can make them healthy, right. And they act upon it using our unity principles there. They make healthy choices. Now, some people have an external health locus of control. And when I first really got big into health education and patient education, especially with diabetes education, I realized that when you're trying to help somebody learn, I had to identify, did this person have an internal locus of control or an external locus of control? Somebody who has an external health locus of control is always making excuses, and it's not my fault, and the doctor didn't tell me to do that. It's like, well, maybe he did 5 times, but they didn't quite get it there. So, and they don't feel like they can't do any better. And these people that have an external health locus of control, when I would be educating them, this is really bad, but it's so true. I'd say, the doctor said that he wants you to do ... And for this kind of a person that has an external health locus of control, that would work. The doctor, God, said to do this or that, or the Bible, whatever within that. Somebody that has an internal locus of control will look at you and say, why do I need to do that? They want rationale behind that. And that's true of anything.
I think I've learned this. We need to be our own advocate, period.
Amen.
I mean, like when we go to the doctor, I have to take a list, I have to write stuff down so I remember that
So,
kind of thing.
Yep,
Yeah.
Way back in that picture, we talked about that, yep. This all blame is a waste of time, no matter how much fault you find with another, regardless of how much you blame them. It will not change you, that we have to take our own self-responsibility. So that handout that I gave you, self-evaluation, to know thyself is the beginning of wisdom. To keep learning more about yourself is the ongoing wisdom that you can have there. So do your self-evaluation. Look at that list. Do some reflection. Make some action there. Evaluate if it's working or not. If it's not, then but definitely take ownership. You all know the Unity 5 principles. Basically, we know that there's this divine energy, ether, that's a divine mind. Some people call God or spirit. And we are the worker bees that can make a difference, and we need to be setting the example and we need to watch our thinking, our feeling, our beliefs, our attitudes, and prayer and meditation, mindfulness, and taking action is so important. So Anita, you want to read these?
Ask yourself, what is in your mind you continue to avoid looking at?
Oh.
What is the price you pay for not looking, seeing, and telling yourself the truth about this situation? What's the payoff for keeping focus on your pain, suffering, and misery?
What can be the payoff for a lot of people?
Attention.
Sympathy, attention.
Connection. They just need that connection.
Yeah.
Oh, my back is killing me again today.
What are the consequences of your to your life for staying stuck in the old painful patterns that you've adopted?
You die quick.
Yeah,
That can be true.
could be. And what's another possibility for you? I mean, that's. And what is something you're willing to do differently to create a different experience of what is?
And it can be little to start with.
Can be little, yeah, but make it, get some action there. So our state of consciousness, positive or negative, will determine how we perceive and experience the world. Summarizing, watch your thoughts. Whoops, went too fast. For they become words, watch your words. For they become actions, watch your actions. Because they become habits, watch your habits. For they become your character, watch your character. For it becomes your destiny. This concludes our session. I know we go fast, but there was a lot of information, so watching it again, and again the summary there of the different things. The summary came about with our class that we had here at Unity East Church on stress, and everybody, I gave them little 3x5 cards, and they wrote down the different things that they did, and I put it all together with what I did, and that's where that came from. Pretty cool, huh? So next session will be by Anita, and that is on spiritual prosperity, and then emotional, and then we have the one on doing your visual book, and then emotional, relational, and financial prosperity. We thank you for coming. Thanks for your offering, love offerings. That goes to help the church for sure there. So we appreciate and we're grateful. And let's just kind of like, we're all in a circle already. Anita, you want to pray us out?
Yep. Okay, just take a moment and relax. Get yourself centered. And a couple of nice, deep, cleansing breaths. And go into your heart space where your heart and mind come together with that one heart and mind that is always there. We're so grateful for all of us being together today to learn this valuable information on how we can care for our physical form as well as the other areas of life in which we want to experience greater prosperity. And we're so grateful that we now know more, and that in this knowing we can create more doing and being, because it is the beingness of prosperity that we seek. And we are so grateful for every aspect and learning and growing and becoming the very best divinely human and humanly divine individuals we can be. And so it is. Amen.
Amen.